and his leg was still in one piece. For a while Horned Hannes didn't move. Then suddenly he began to cough, and eventually to speak in a hoarse voice, so quiet he could barely be understood. "Where do you want to lie, Andreas Egger?" "What?" "What earth do you want to be buried in?" "I don't know," said Egger. He had never considered this question, and in fact, in his opinion, there was no point wasting any time or thought on such things. "The earth is the earth. It makes no difference where you lie." "Maybe it makes no difference, the way nothing makes any difference in the end," he heard Horned Hannes whisper. "But there will be a cold that gnaws the bones, and the soul." "The soul too?" asked Egger, and a sudden shiver ran down his spine. "The soul most of all," answered Horned Hannes. He had stretched his head out as far as he could around the edge of the frame and was staring at the wall of fog and falling snow. "The soul, and the bones, and the spirit, and everything you've been attached to and believed in all your life. The eternal cold will gnaw it all away. That's what's written, because that's what I've heard. People say death brings forth new life. But people are stupider than the stupidest nanny goat. I say death brings forth nothing at all. Death is the cold lady." "The what?" "The cold lady," repeated Horned Hannes. "She walks on the mountain and steals through the valley. She comes when she wants and takes what she needs. She has no face and no voice. The cold lady comes and takes and goes. That's all. She seizes you as she passes and takes you with her and sticks you in some hole. And in the last patch of sky you see before they finally shovel the earth in over you, she reappears and breathes on you. And all that's left for you then is darkness and the cold." Egger looked up into the snowy sky, and for a moment he feared something might appear there and breathe in his face. "Jesus," he muttered, through clenched teeth. "That's bad." "Yes, it's bad," said Horned Hannes, and his voice sounded raw with fear. Neither man stirred again. The silence was now overlaid by the quiet singing of the wind as it swept over the ridge, dusting up wispy pennants of snow. Suddenly Egger felt a movement, and a moment later he tipped over backwards and lay on his back in the snow. Horned Hannes had somehow managed to loosen the knots and, quick as a flash, clamber out of the frame. He stood there, spindly beneath his ragged clothes and swaying slightly in the wind. Egger shuddered again. "You get straight back in," he said. "You'll catch something else otherwise." Horned Hannes paused, his head craned forward. For a moment he seemed still to be listening to Egger's words, but the snow had swallowed them. Then he turned and began to run up the mountain in great leaps. Egger struggled to his feet, slipped, fell again, cursing onto his back, pushed himself off the ground with both hands, and got to his feet once more. "Come back!" he yelled after the goatherd, who was bounding away with astonishing speed. But Horned Hannes could no longer hear him. Egger slipped the straps off his shoulders, dropped the frame, and ran after him. But after only a few meters he had to stop, gasping for breath. The slope was too steep here, and with every step he sank up to his hips in the snow. The scrawny figure ahead of him quickly diminished, until at last it dissolved entirely in the impenetrable whiteness of the blizzard. Egger put his hands to his mouth like a funnel and shouted at the top of his voice, "Stop, you stupid fool! No one has ever outrun death!" To no avail. Horned Hannes had disappeared. Andreas Egger walked the last few hundred meters down to the village to revive his profoundly shaken spirits with a bowl of greasy doughnuts and a glass of homemade Krauterer at the Golden Goat Inn. He found himself a spot right beside the old tiled stove, placed his hands on the table and felt the warm blood flow slowly back to his fingers. The little door of the stove stood open and the fire crackled inside. For a brief moment he thought he saw